But the quarterback thing, yeah, I mean, I've said all along, I think Shedeur's presence will be a hindrance to some guy. Not somebody's going to take the job. They pay really well, and there's only 32 of the job. Somebody will take it. But there are candidates out there who will look at this and say, nope, I want nothing to do with that. How could you? Look at everything that Kevin went through over the last year with Shedeur and some of the stupidity and nonsense that was out there. What coach would want to sign up for that? Particularly when he didn't play that well. He wasn't that good. Like, I've been pretty adamant. He shouldn't be on this team. Like, to me, Shedeur should not be on this team next year. He's not good enough to be the starter, and this organization is not stable and mature enough to have him as a backup. They've proven that. So what, are you going to draft another quarterback and put him atop Shedeur, and then all the stuff comes back again about, well, what about Shedeur? When are you going to play Shedeur? Like, no thanks, hard pass.
Cleveland insider Ken Carman has just exposed shocking biased behavior by Jason Lloyd aimed at Browns quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Fans are talking as one of the city's most respected voices calls out a pattern of unfair criticism that goes beyond performance and starts shaping a narrative around Sanders. Is this just tough sports analysis, or is there something deeper influencing how the young quarterback is being portrayed? The truth is finally coming to light. From repeated personal jabs to public statements questioning Sanders' place on the team, Jason Lloyd's criticism has gone far beyond analyzing stats and performance. And Ken Carman is not holding back in calling out what he sees as a racially biased pattern, defending Sanders and challenging the narrative that has plagued him all season.
I disagree, but because I wanted to ask you another question about Kevin, but now I got to go off on Shedeur here for a second here. I think that's a little extreme. He shouldn't be on the team next year. You're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round next year. You're not in a position to.
I didn't say he shouldn't be in the NFL. He shouldn't be on this team.
I understand that.
He's not mature. But look at everything they just went through. And for what? He's not that good.
What did they really go through?
Do we need to remind ourselves of all the locker room stuff, all the crap about the miming and the...
That's well. Wait a minute.
What organization wants to put up with that?
You're breaking up for a second here. I think that was more media stuff. I don't think that there was actual problems in the locker room. I had a problem that Dylan Gabriel was there for obvious reasons, but I mean, look at it. I don't think that he was a problem in the building. I don't think that he was such a distraction in the building to everybody involved.
The Cleveland Browns have always lived under a microscope. But this season, Shedeur Sanders, the young quarterback with immense potential, has found himself not just under scrutiny, but under attack. One Cleveland media figure has repeatedly painted Sanders as a liability, a distraction, a hindrance, someone who should not even be on the team next year. But defenders argue that much of this criticism is unfair and media-driven, exaggerating minor mistakes and creating a story of dysfunction where little actually exists. Ken Carman has pointed out that many locker room issues are fabricated by the media, designed to sell controversy rather than report reality. In his eyes, Sanders is being scapegoated for a team in transition, targeted not only for his on-field play, but because of who he is, a black quarterback navigating the pressures of Cleveland football. Jason Lloyd's rhetoric has been persistent and unrelenting. On a radio appearance on the Ken Carman and Anthony Lima show, Lloyd stated without hesitation that Sanders should not be on the Browns next year. He argued that Sanders' presence is a hindrance and a distraction, framing him as a core problem for the organization. The severity of this claim cannot be overstated. Sanders, a quarterback still early in his career, was being publicly labeled a liability for the team, regardless of whether any real issues existed inside the locker room. This stance has created a storm of controversy, especially because defenders argue that it fails to account for the broader context, including coaching instability, team dynamics, and media-fueled drama. The tension escalated further when Jason Lloyd allegedly labeled Sanders the worst quarterback in this century, drawing comparisons to notorious NFL busts like Jamarcus Russell. Supporters of Sanders, including Ken Carman, were outraged. They argue that such statements ignore Sanders' proven abilities and the difficult circumstances he has faced, instead magnifying errors and creating a narrative of failure. It's not just a critique, it's an attempt to rewrite his story before it has even fully unfolded.
Shedeur didn't play all that great this year. And you guys don't get, like, the quarterback room is there a worse one in the NFL right now? Honestly?
No.
So what are we talking about here? What are we doing? Like, Jimmy's talking about
so
we're going to win.
If I'm worse,
might be Dylan Gabriel.
The quarterback.
That's the whole thing about it. That's why I can't believe that you don't get rid of both when you get rid of one. Because okay, if you win 6 games next year, we're going to do the whole thing over again.
I just said that.
Well, I said that to you at the beginning of the interview. At the beginning of the interview.
I just said that I would not have him back in the building, and now it's like you're agreeing with me and you're arguing with me earlier.
Because I just don't see the point of. Listen, I'm a fan. I'm a general manager for the rest of my life, right? So I just want to see somebody who I might have some interest in, and it ain't Deshaun Watson, and it ain't Dylan Gabriel. I have more interest in Shedeur Sanders. If you want to bring in Malik Willis or you want to bring in Mac Jones, let's have a conversation, okay?
Ken Carman has been vocal in defending Sanders and challenging the bias in Cleveland media. He pointed out that many supposed issues, so-called locker room problems, were not organic problems within the team, but rather fabrications amplified by critics like Jason Lloyd. Carman's defense is twofold. Ronarfs. The criticism is often media-driven. Sanders is constantly under the microscope, and the media narrative often creates issues that do not exist. Carman emphasizes that Sanders' treatment is reminiscent of historical patterns where black quarterbacks are disproportionately criticized compared to their peers. By exposing this bias, Carman positions himself as a voice of reason in a heated debate, challenging the narrative that Sanders is solely responsible for team issues and highlighting the unfair targeting by some members of the Cleveland media. This is not just about football. It's about perception, representation, and fairness. For Sanders, the emotional stakes are immense. He is expected to perform at an elite level while navigating a media landscape that has, at times, painted him as a villain. Every mistake is magnified, every success questioned, and every narrative influenced by critics who may have their own biases. Adding to the pressure on Sanders is the recent turbulence within the Browns organization. Head coach Kevin Stefanski was fired, while GM Andrew Berry remained in charge, creating a backdrop of uncertainty. According to defenders of Sanders, some media figures appear to redirect frustration over coaching decisions onto the quarterback, using him as a convenient scapegoat for issues that are organizational rather than personal. This context is crucial. It highlights that Sanders is playing in a volatile environment, where external factors, coaching instability, media narratives, and fan expectations contribute to the perception of his performance. The controversy surrounding Sanders is not isolated. Historically, black quarterbacks have often faced disproportionate criticism, with mistakes magnified and successes downplayed. Analysts and fans alike have observed that narratives about black quarterbacks frequently focus on character, leadership, and intangibles, while white quarterbacks are more likely to be critiqued on technical or statistical grounds. Carman's defense of Sanders points to this pattern of bias, suggesting that Jason Lloyd's repeated attacks may not be entirely about football performance. They may be influenced, consciously or unconsciously, by racial stereotypes and historical biases in sports media. Fans have been vocal in defending Sanders, flooding social media with posts challenging the narrative. Many highlight his clutch performances, leadership skills, and statistical accomplishments, arguing that he deserves credit rather than being targeted unfairly. The emotional weight of these reactions is significant. Fans feel a sense of injustice, as if a young player is being dragged through public scrutiny not just for his play, but for who he is and where he comes from. The debate has transcended football, entering the realm of social justice and public perception, amplifying the stakes even further. Ken Carman's exposure of these actions is more than a defense of one quarterback. It is a call for fairness, accountability, and integrity in sports media. Sanders deserves to be judged on his performance, talent, and contributions, not on exaggerated stories, media spin, or underlying bias. As the Browns navigate coaching changes, organizational transitions, and the pressures of professional football, one thing remains clear. Shedeur Sanders' story is far from over, and the media narrative should not define his legacy. The conversation sparked by this controversy is not just about football, it is about justice, representation, and the ethical responsibility of those who influence the world of sports.